Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Good evening. This is Phil Barnhart, and we're calling to order the Bond Oversight Committee of the Lane Community College for this meeting on April 22nd at 6 p.m. And as I look around, I see that we have a quorum present. And I'm so happy to have everyone here tonight on this beautiful sunny evening. My first order on the agenda is to introduce our two new members, Colina Beard and Wendy Simmons, and I think they're both here. Am I right about that? Yes, I am. Good. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming to this your first meeting of the Bond Oversight Committee. And then my other job is to remind the members not to use the Zoom chat for meeting business because it's not visible to the public during the meeting. And a reminder that this is a public meeting, and there are members of the public who are not visible to us, but who are watching our meeting today, and the meeting is being recorded. Tom, have I got that? Have I stated that correctly? Are there any other announcements that I'm supposed to be giving now?
I think that's pretty good. I think for the most part, we ask you to keep your video on and your mic quiet. Understand that there are times where your bandwidth may have problems, and that it's a reasonable excuse if you start having problems with your connection. But let's try to be open.
Right. Is Dr. Belcher here with us tonight?
She was here a moment ago, but
okay.
So
she may be having connectivity issues, but she should be on shortly.
Okay. Well, if we have to, we'll move her comments to a different spot. But right now, the first thing on our agenda is the review of the October 16th, 2023 minutes. And to move things along, I'll let you know that I've reviewed them and I'm happy with them. But if there are any additions or corrections to the minutes, now's the time.
There was one correction. Alan Bass was, I'm sorry. There was one correction that Alan Bass was he was not listed as a member in attendance, but that has been updated.
Okay. That was updated just lately, I take it.
Yes.
Because I printed out the minutes just a few minutes ago, and it may have been an earlier version. It didn't have his name on it, but you've updated that in the minutes. Is there any other? Thank you, Amy. Is there anything else that any other additions or corrections to the minutes? Is there any objection to the approval of the minutes as updated by Amy's comment just a moment ago? No objection. So the minutes. I'm sorry, Terry?
I said I just moved it. We accept the corrected minutes.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion moved and seconded. Is there let me do it this way. We'll do it formally since Terry moved it formally. All those in favor of adopting the minutes as corrected, please say aye, raise a hand so that we can see. Are there any members who are opposed to the adoption of the minute? Raise your hand. I think that's a unanimous vote. Am I wrong on that in any way? Okay. The minutes are adopted, and we will move on to the next order of business, which is the president's comments. Dr. Bolger, gotten back on?
Yes, I hope that everyone can see and hear me.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair Barnhart. It's a pleasure to be here. I just want to welcome everyone, and particularly the new members who are on the Bond Oversight Committee. Thank you very, very much for serving on this committee. This is an incredibly important committee. You'll be on this committee for a little while. We really, really appreciate your support, because what you do is for the taxpayers of this county. And you make sure essentially that what we are doing What we said we would do in the bond in May of 2020 is what we are doing. And I think you'll be very, very pleased at tonight's report. And if you have time ever have time, then please sign up for a hard hat tour so that you can come and see the development of the buildings on campus. Certainly, I know that you've seen the renovations in Cottage Grove, but also you'll see some more of those as time goes on, but also in Florence. And so we couldn't be happier again that you are part of this committee. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. We always appreciate it when the president comes to our meetings, and you're welcome to stay, or if you have other business you need to attend to, you can leave, and we're happy either way. But if you stick around, you may be able to answer some questions as we go along.
I know that might be my cue, Chair Barnhart, but I did want to make sure that I introduced our new Vice President of Finance and Operations, and that's Kara Flath. And she may have already been introduced, but I wanted to make sure that I did that as well.
Thank you. She had not been introduced, and welcome, Kara. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Okay, I have next on my agenda is the term membership. I'm not sure what that is, since we've dealt with the new members. Is there some announcement about membership?
That was just to make sure that it was covered.
Yeah, so we do have a full roster at this time, Amy. Is that correct?
We have one more space, and I believe we're waiting on that application and interview before that happens.
Okay.
Great. And just a reminder, the members of this committee are appointed by the board. So they, of course, have to go through their process in order to do that. And I'm very pleased that they've done it twice recently with Colina and Wendy. Thank you so much. Design and construction updates. I think, Tom, that's your cue.
Oh, yeah. Amy, do you have these things up to share with people, or should
they are on the board doc site
okay.
for them to go and link to?
Let me see if I can share my screen. That might be the easiest way. But this time we have, let me see where I want to go.
Well, while he's doing that, let me ask if, oh, it looks like he's got it.
Hey, I got one.
Well, it says you're sharing your screen. I haven't seen it yet, but oh, there it is. Okay.
Okay. We're getting closer. So, so I provided you with two things. One of the for our major projects, we asked the contractors to do a monthly update. This particular one is what's been provided by Fortis Construction for the Health Professions Building. In the past, I've kind of given the most current one, but with this project, as well as the ITech project, there's been a lot going on. And as I looked at the last 3 months issuance, when you look at this project ranging from, when in January, they were talking about installing the bridge and getting some tape and finish on, we go to the next month and you see it starting to be enclosed, really wrapping up things. And now here we are at the beginning, at the end of March, looking at the progress on the interiors. It's really pretty amazing. This vision that's up here in the upper right-hand corner, I can tell you, as of today, that dirt area on the right-hand side along building 5 is all paved now. So things are happening quickly. For the Health Provisions Building, we are looking at taking possession of it May 15th. I won't say it'll be totally done, but it should be the point where we can start moving in our equipment, getting ready to do more of the setup for faculty and academic things in the building there. Due to the nature of some things, there will be construction that will continue on through summer in a large part just to make sure it gets done. Terry, I see a hand there. So
Terry?
Yeah, I just want to know, I know we're getting close to that. Is there any plans for doing any type of a grand opening, ribbon cutting, or whatever on these buildings as we complete them?
Yeah, that great question. Where we're talking about right now for the Health Professions Building is probably doing that about the time school starts. As part of a kickoff there. As I said, we're going to be moving in over the summer. We have to relocate quite a bit of things from other places around campus. So it gives us a chance to do that, and as well as get things like the dental clinic up and running. While we have a lot of new equipment, there's things coming in, and just having a chance for our dental faculty to test drive all of the new equipment. I will say they've walked through recently. We have all the dental chairs and a lot of the equipment in there. They're drooling over the new stuff. I'll warn you, it's they're pretty excited about what they're seeing, as well as some of the other groups in there. So that's this one. Any other questions about health professions?
I noticed that there's another piece of that slide. I don't know if it's something that you want to just talk about or not.
Oh, yeah, let me share that again, because I just quit sharing. And we'll do this again. I think this is the right one.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to.
And yeah, this is with health professions. I think most of you know that one of the big things that the board instituted along with this was community benefits agreement, that they wanted us to try and do some things. This chart is where we've been trying to track how close we are on that. And as we're nearing the end here, local subcontractors was a big part of it. And you look in that top pie chart, 17% based on dollar value has been out of the region. We have this Lane County, the valley, which really goes up and down up towards Salem, other nearby areas. And then out of the region is the other one, which kind of means Portland, or for the most part, or perhaps out of state. Most of those that are out of region were really based on specialty types of work that they're just, it isn't local contractors in order to pull that off. So really pretty impressive there. Same thing, you look at the sourcing and materials, a lot of it is through Lane County. Again, much of that comes out of Portland just due to the nature of a lot of the materials are out of state to some degree. They don't make mechanical equipment in Oregon. So maybe we can do later if we get iTech going well, but different problem. Some of the other things that they talked about is the living wage, full health coverage, apprenticeship programs, as well as the OSHA 10 requirements, providing that to all employees. And we've done really well on that. So that's an exciting trend. I think it's been, there weren't specific goals that were set by the board or within the contracts. And in many ways, I'm glad of that, because I think the contractors have done better trying to do it than we might ask for. So it's an interesting little, if you only ask for 75%, they don't bother looking beyond that sometimes, or whatever that number is. And when we're up at, apprenticeship participation at over 80% in applicable things, OSHA 10 certification for everybody that's on site, 100%. Living wage, again, 100%. Those are pretty impressive statistics that I don't think we were expecting to see. So
thank you. Thank you so much. The fact that the money is raised locally and spent mostly in connection with local materials and contractors is quite impressive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Terry, you have a hand up.
Yeah, Tom, do you know what the living wage is here in Lane County, or what's the benchmark?
The one that we were using is, Jennifer, is $25 and some odd change.
It's about $25 an hour.
That was set, and that was set in the resolution from the board and has not been reviewed since then, but they've been able to do that. So I'm going to stop sharing on that one. Yeah. And then share on, let me change to another screen here and share this one. The other big project going on as this comes in, hopefully you're seeing a new set of graphics. The Industry and Trades Education Center. Fairly large project. Looking at this, I am just totally amazed when I look at this. Back in January, we were putting up the steel, we're mounting these wood panels and pouring slabs. I think one of the interesting things here is that picture in the upper right-hand corner are mass plywood panels that we're using for floor and roof structure. They are produced by an Oregon company up in the area of Drain. So in a nearby, it's a long-time lumber company, but they've been doing this. They've made plywood panels for a generation. These mass plywood panels are, these particular ones are about 3.5 inches thick, and they're as big as 10 feet wide and 40 feet long. These are big chunks of wood that are pretty structural, but it is, Perez Lumber is the only company in America that makes these. So it's pretty exciting to use them, promote them. They're done in Europe quite a bit, but they're the first one to produce this. So a piece there. As I go through this, of course, we've been getting some tours through. You start to see this as we get into, other things. In February, we started to get a lot more finish, where we're starting to get interior walls. And I'm just going to kind of jump through to March. And that picture in the lower right there, start to show that we have walls up. We're getting this thing put together and dried in, and we actually had brick start this week on some of and starting to install windows. So it is a big one. I think one of the fun things about this Lewis one are these fun facts. Our Oregon Electric is our contractor for electric, over 60 miles of wire for low voltage. So that's just 60 miles for our IT infrastructure of wire. Amazing little details. There's some fun facts. So I think that's just kind of you start to learn the scale of what's going on with these things as you get into it. And then I will also go to this community benefits page. This one's not quite as far along, but again, you see a very strong Lane County and mostly Oregon. They're also tracking COVID certified firms. So those are obviously Oregon companies. Once again, 100% living wage, full healthcare and OSHA 10 certificates. This one interesting that some subcontractors have not achieved OSHA 10 for all of them. And part of that is the way they're reporting, because this group is including shorter term employees sometimes that haven't been with the company long enough to take that training yet. So questions or thoughts?
I'll simply note that I visited there as part of the ongoing process of public engagement quite some time ago now, and some of the floors weren't even up. So it's really impressive what's happened on this project. Do you have an estimated? And maybe I was wool gathering, but I didn't hear an estimated time of completion.
I think I missed that. Well, I think I talked about we're 4 weeks away from taking over health professions, although construction will go on. Industry, the iTech building, we're looking at taking that building over in about the 1st of December with occupancy, hopefully, if all goes well, with the start of winter term. We'll have most of the classes moved over into that. So it's a major undertaking. There's going to be a lot of things that we're going to have to shift over and move, including a machine shop in a matter of a few weeks, along with some other things. But we are tracking in that direction still. So.
Great. Do you have other ongoing projects you want to talk about today?
We continue to work on some other projects. We're looking at, last time we talked about, we're getting started on building 16, which is one that we're looking at. We do have a design team and a contractor. Fortis Construction is the contractor. Royal Brokaw is the architect. They're a local architect. We've been working on that one. It has been a bit of a challenge with budgets. We're trying to look through that. As we get into building 16, we're finding more problems than we'd hoped for.
Would you remind the committee what building 16 is?
Building 16 is our math, science, and engineering building. And this project in particular focuses on our science labs that are, boy, they look very much like the science labs I took back worked in the 60s. Haven't changed a whole lot and are in, I see Wendy Simmons with a big smile on her face. She's been in those, I think, lately. But it is a pretty major overhaul of that. While the building was added to and some upgrades done about 20 years ago, they are in desperate need of upgrades to meet current safety standards as well as pedagogy. And so we're really trying to balance that. So that's an ongoing one. We've talked about.
I would bet you were putting in many miles more of wire in that building.
Yeah,
I'm making that up, but I'm guessing that.
Yeah, that one is going to be a lot more metal work for it. It's a major overhaul of the mechanical systems is the big things to get ventilation appropriate for current lab standards. Of course, there'll be a lot of rewiring and other things, but it really, the driving factor is our getting fresh, getting appropriate air changes and exhaust for the types of work that's getting in there. So.
Now we skipped along in our agenda. We sort of skipped to ongoing projects. Are there other new and upcoming projects you want to talk about?
Not really, not at this point.
Okay.
We're kind of working through that.
And you've already described the two big current projects. Are there other ongoing projects you want to discuss? Or projects in closeout, projects that that are being completed? Well,
we have, obviously, I think Dr. Bulger mentioned, Florence, which, it's been in closeout, and it's amazing how long these things take. We've been in there for over a year now. We are actually processing the final invoice right now to get that closed out. So that's an encouraging thing. We're getting that done. We're also doing that with, we've completed the field work from last summer. Those are closed out, and we've had our final service, and we'll be doing final payments on that one as well. So those are the other major projects.
Great. So are we ready to talk about the budget updates, which of course is more, I think, within the line of our area of responsibility?
Okay, should I share? Let's see, what's that? New and upcoming question. Oops, I'm on the wrong.
Yeah, please, members, interrupt anytime when you have a question or a comment.
Yeah, so let me think through how I want to, we've done this too many times, Phil. I get lost now.
Right. I mean, the area that I'm primarily interested in is how are we doing on expending bond funds? Where are we in terms of being able to complete the projects that the college told the public about when the bonds were approved? in the vote, that sort of thing. I think that's our primary responsibility, as I understand it.
Well, we had a meeting on that earlier this week, to get through that. You know, we're looking at it. I mentioned in my manager's update, one of the things with Kara Flake joining us as VPFO, one of the first things we talked about is we're halfway through the bond. It's time to take a moment and just let's double check and reconcile our accounts to make sure everything's going. So she's been on board with that, and we're looking through it. I think, you know, based on where we know where our expenditures are, it's promising. Costs still continue to go. When we met with the cabinet and Dr. Bulger earlier this week, we're prioritizing and trying to figure out some of these, which projects we're on. And I think the other thing that we talked about with the cabinet is making sure we have the right program attached to each of it. I think it's one of the things that we've learned in the design process for each of these major projects is taking a little bit of time as we get started to rethink that priority and what a program needs are is a really important piece. Keep in mind the bond and what was said was done back in 2019, voted on in 2020. We had a little thing that changed a lot of things called that they refer to as a pandemic. So we really want to take a look. We also have some great new leadership. So it's also, let's make sure we're doing the right thing where our leadership is where they want to take us. So I've been given the hope that we're on track, but I saw Henry raise his hand real quick.
Yeah. Henry?
I want to know if any of the projects running over budget.
Thank you. Great question.
The projects that are under construction are very close to that. As we close out Florence, which is the big one, that, you know, that was just over $9.5 million. That was part of why I asked Ms. Flaith to help us reconcile everything, because my records show we're within a few $100s of where we're at on that budget, and so I'm trying to revolve that. Building the health professions building, it's going to come down to where we get some of the equipment, what we can get for donations, what we can get for other funding for it. But we're coming in within, very close on that. ITech again is there's a lot of equipment wishes. So I will say these police, faculty, staff, administration are doing a wonderful job going out there looking for other sources, whether it's other grants that they can find, donations. It's amazing what's coming out. So I don't have anything. I will say that I talked about building 16 as we're planning. Some of these come out higher than what our initial estimates were, just as these big projects came out a bit higher. When we first started, we took a guess on where we were. Early in the design process, we try and reset that and look at it. And fortunately, we're staying within range after we've had that chance to reset, rediscuss needs. Hopefully that answers your question, Henry.
Yeah, Terry's next,
yeah.
and then Colina.
Tom, I thought I saw on, I think it was one of the last page where you have all of the projects, that there was one of them that was in the red, and I thought it was the health sciences, that showing that it was over budget.
Yeah, in that quarterly report, it does show that. And again, some of that is, it is over when you consider all of the encumbrances, which there are some leftover things in there where we create a purchase order for a larger amount than to allow some growth, so we're going through, that's part of where we're reconciling some things through and rebalancing some numbers there. There was also some work in the health professions that is tied to, due to contracting, it's under that contract, but it's tied to the next line down, which is the temporary grounds and grounds relocation project. So there's some things there that one still has some funds, but because of the nature of the contracting, we put it under Fortis's general construction contract.
Well, getting back to what Chairman Barnhart said, what our role as members are, I'm still struggling of when I look at these to know, I mean, you say how much we've expended, how much we've encumbered. I still don't see anything on any of these projects though that says, where are we at on that project? Are we 50% completed with it? And we've expended 70% of our money, or we've only expended 40%. So I'm going to push again. I really would like to see some type of a standard estimate to completion of where we think we're going to be at based on where the project is, because that's the red flag is, as Henry was saying, well, it's too late if we wait until we find we're over budget, but you can sure find out which ones are going that way if you find out that you've expended more money as a percentage than what you've completed on the project. So I'll bring that up again, then I'll lower my hand.
Note taken.
Yeah, yes, Selena.
My comment or question was similar to Terry's, but I think, and what Terry, you're probably looking for is on page 2 of the quarterly report. And on there's a graph that you have that shows that the health professions building is about $350,000 in the red. And so I don't need you to repeat that. Thank you for providing that answer, Tom. But I would want to underscore what Terry and Mr. Levert have stated.
I would simply note that we do have a pretty complete report that was emailed to us earlier, called the status report from April of this year. And that's available to the public as well, isn't it, Tom?
Yes, all of this stuff we do. We post this on Board Docs, which is a public.
Right. Right. But I do note that I don't see estimates here about the actual percentage of completion and and your estimate of whether we're going to go over budget or not. I think one of the other things that would be useful for us to know is are there other sources of funds? For example, that $250,000 that health sciences is over, where's the money coming from to pay for that? Is that coming out of other projects, or is it coming from other sources, or what do we know?
For the health professions,
I mean, for example, that's one of them.
For that one, it's looking at balancing other projects, or where there were savings from other projects would be where we're looking at that. And that's part of where talking about, we're at a point where we do need to kind of go through and see where we freed up money, because a number of them have come in under budget.
Okay. I think I'm probably repeating what Terry said when I suggested it would be useful to get a summary or a listing of those items and how they fit together. If you're over on this budget and under on some others, it would be useful to see how that's playing out. I suspect the board might be interested in that too.
Okay. Understandable.
Terry, have I hit that, or did I misunderstand what you were concerned about?
No, I think that and Tom knows. I come from a project management background, the same as Tom, and a very standard metric is estimate to completion. And that allows you to look at how much you've spent to date versus where are we at completion, are we estimating to be at completion of the project. And that'll tell you whether you're going to be over budget or under budget. And So I would just like to see on these reports for each of the projects every month or on a quarterly reports is okay. We are, like on the health sciences, we're at 98% completed. Well, we know that we've gone over 350,000 or something. So we're going to have to find out where we're going to get that extra money. But I just want to know, like on the iTech building, how much, have we spent versus how far along are we in the project. And that's just a standard project management metric that should be readily available for us to see.
Can we get that number for future reports?
I think we can work on getting that. I think I want to make sure it's a consistent number.
Sure.
It's a consistent calculation, I guess. It's not a consistent number, but understanding that. Yeah. So I have to look at some of these projects to understand the data a little bit better. But yes, we have. I do have that certainly with major projects. We can pull that together.
Right. After listening to Terry explain what he's concerned about, it occurred to me that the board is probably interested in that information as well, not just us. I'd be surprised if they weren't. So we have that budget update, the quarterly status report, as I think is the update that the agenda is referring to. Are there any other questions about that quarterly status report that was included in the email that we received earlier?
I see a hand up from Kalina.
Oh, please, yes.
Yes,
Kalina.
Mr. Levert's hand was up prior to mine.
Oh, I missed his altogether. Henry?
He just raised his hand. I'm sorry, he didn't have it up electronically.
I had another question. And Terry, you were mentioning that you were getting money and raising money from other sources to help out with some of these projects. Did I hear that right?
Yes.
Okay, so that extra money that's coming in added to the bond, is that to keep down the price, or is that to keep it from going to cost overrun?
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily come into the bond. These are other grants and other donations that come in mostly for equipment and materials, or mostly equipment, I should say, that are being donated or grants that support the academic.
But is that going towards the cost of the overall project?
Not to construction cost. It does go into augment the equipment that's in the building.
Okay.
Right. No, that all makes sense. And I think Colleen was next and then Wendy.
Yeah, so a couple of things. So on the report, the quarterly report, where you have, I think the clarification that maybe and that we're looking for is on that report, you state the total encumbrances. And I think it would be helpful maybe as opposed to encumbrances that be changed to total expenditure to date. And I do know, like, there's some vendors who don't send in their billing for 60 days and all of those things. So it's not quite up to date. So yeah. I do get that. But that might be helpful.
Yeah.
And then I would like to ask, so the line says total project budget, but you stated in your prior answer to Mr. Levert that the other grants are not, are the other grants or the other funding, is that included in the total project budget or no?
No, those are not. Only the seismic and the capital grants from the state, which are true construction budgets. Mm-hmm. The other equipment is accounted for differently within the college, is my understanding. And
yes. So what I think might be helpful is if that title could be changed to clarify specifically what that number is attributable to, because I would have to say in my world, if I look at total project, it's from all funding sources. And so that's what I'm looking at when I'm talking about total project. And I recognize this is my first meeting. And I appreciate all of the questions because that helps me to ask for more clarification. But for me, when I'm reading that and to prep for this, I thought that total project wasn't just certain funds. I thought that it was the total project amount. So if there could be some clarification in that, that would be helpful. And that I'm referring to the Q2 report and specifically just your summaries that you've got with the pie charts on page 2. Because I went directly to that before I read through all the line items. So thank you.
Right. Yes, I think Wendy was next.
Yeah, I was just off the budget, but you mentioned the project updates, and I don't know if you were going to go into any more detail about some of the other projects. I know you mentioned the major ones. And again, it's my first meeting, but I'd be curious in hearing more about the public safety relocation and the IT infrastructure, cyber security, safety and security projects. But I don't know if, anyway, that's the right time to ask this.
No, appropriate. I do talk about those a bit in my quarterly update, or in my bond, what I call my manager's updates on that. For the IT infrastructure, there are 3 sections of that we spent a little more than half of that money at this point. With the new IT director, we're re-looking at the next steps on that. So that is one of those things that, again, critical to understand what the current needs are and what the proper cost is to achieve some of those things.
Yeah, thank you, Wendy, for bringing that up. I am not an expert on any of these things, but I'm certainly aware of the recent publicity about security issues in other places. And we certainly want to learn from those events so that we can avoid them ourselves. And I assume that's part of what we're talking about, isn't it, Tom?
Yeah, and the other aspect I think she talked about was just safety and security that we're looking at, and that is hardware and door hardware, access control, fire alarm systems, and those kind of things.
Yeah, physical security. I was thinking about cybersecurity, but you're right.
The cybersecurity has been, they've actually had some great achievement on the cybersecurity in that side. We've pretty much completed what that first round was, and that's where they can pause and kind of look at it in the IT world. Of course, 5-year-old plans is not particularly current in the IT world. For the safety and security, access control, those kind of things, we continue. We're getting closer. We're looking at getting the right hardware. We actually had one situation where we took off. We're ready to go with a vendor, and as we got to the final implementation phase of it, we realized they couldn't do what we needed. We're able to keep parts of that and need to go back in another direction. So it's that core planning that is just so critical. And unfortunately, I wish it went faster. But good planning controls the budget, controls the needs, and make sure we meet the expectations of the users. I think it's the big thing.
All right. Other questions, comments? We have lots more time on our calendar for tonight if you want to use it, or we can go on to setting the next meeting time, and I have some comments about that when we get to it. Tom, anything else on design and construction updates?
No, I think that's
I think we've given you we've got marching orders on what the committee wants, certainly.
Yep. I know we're working to present some things to the board in the foreseeable future.
And I assume they're
Pay
gonna want
attention.
very similar information to what we've asked for.
Yeah, so do pay attention. I know that Amy has been very good about trying to get notices out before board meetings so that you know when things are on their agenda, as well as following up with what happened. And she's really good about saying, hey, at this point in time, when you get to if you look at the recording, you don't have to listen to the whole thing. You can go to hour 2.73, whatever the time. And so you can really get into and see what that is. So expect to see more in the coming months, that there'll be a few things there but that's, we continue to work on things there.
Yeah, and I appreciate those updates. I think they're very handy. And you've been sending them to us by email, so members, watch your email for reports about what the board's doing. And then some of those issues, of course, are tangential to our job, but it's still useful to know as we consider our role. Thank you, Tom. If there's not anything else on design and construction updates, let's go on to and I'm sorry, the manager's budget. I'm on the wrong line there. Manager's budget. Let's go on to setting the next meeting agenda. My comment at that is, unless unless the schedule has changed for the board, we're going to want to have a meeting in June for the purpose of reviewing the chair's report to the board, which they will probably want at a meeting early in July. Am I even close on that topic?
That does make sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, even if the agenda is abbreviated, but it might be possible at that meeting for us to get an update on some of the things that Terry and Henry and Wendy and Colina have been asking about. That ought to be sufficient time to get those additional columns added to your financial reports.
Yeah, typically our next update would be issued in July, I believe.
Right.
Quarterly update.
Yeah, and the problem, of course, as we encountered last year, is that the board wants its report before that's done.
Yeah.
So, Amy, please.
In the last minute, the committee had discussed having a meeting on June 10th to do that if possible.
Okay.
So that would be your board, that would be focused on your chair's report to the board.
Yeah. June 10th, you said? I'm busy. I'm doing a quick look at my calendar. And others might do the same thing. Yeah, I can do that night, that evening.
Phil,
Terry?
whatever date we choose to have our meeting in June, will you have at least a draft of your report for us to review and offer suggestions or comments on before it becomes final then?
Yes, that's what we have done in the past. The rule that we follow doesn't require that, but I have not submitted a report to the board that the committee hasn't reviewed and commented on and criticized and made amendments to, so that it becomes a report from the committee rather than just me. No, I appreciate the question. I think it's absolutely right on. The last reports, the last couple of reports, Tom has prepared the main body of the report. I've added comments as part of an introduction, and then we've asked the committee to review it and to comment on it, and we've made amendments on the fly, actually, so that we can get that report to the board in July. Is that what you were after, Terry? I'm getting a head nod. Okay, good. So if I understand it right, we've already got on our plan a meeting June 10th, and I will sometime in late May get a draft of at least Tom's portion of that report, He's giving me a chuckle.
Amy, put that on my calendar.
Yeah, right. Okay. We're asking Tom to do a lot of work to get this report out. But of course, the board deserves a complete report from us.
Yeah.
And the only way we can do that is if the guts of it are prepared by Tom. And I'm hoping, Tom, that you'll be able to include in that report some of the data that members of the committee have asked for tonight.
Yeah, we'll work together. I know I'll work with Jennifer and Kara and others to see how we can put some of that data together and make that understandable.
Right, and then of course we'll send it. We'll send the data to and my introductory comments to members of the committee well in advance of the meeting on the 10th, so they can review it. The 10th of June.
Yeah, I would say. Well, I would target about a week beforehand.
Yeah. That way everybody has a chance to look at it, comment, and I would welcome. I don't know if this meets the public meeting requirement or not, but personally, I would welcome comments from the members of the committee to me and to Tom before the meeting, if you have them, because that might make it easier for us to modify or at least propose modifications at the meeting. Does that work? I don't know what the public meeting rule is about that kind of conversation. Is that acceptable? Does that work for us?
I think as long as we don't do a reply all when we send those in.
Yeah.
And we just reply just directly to you, Phil, and Tom, it should be appropriate.
Should be okay. Yeah, and of course we'll make that public at the meeting anyway, for people who are interested in knowing what we're doing. And you're absolutely right. I'm recalling now some of the criticisms of the county commission for doing reply alls when they shouldn't have. Thank you, appreciate that. All right, is there anything else? So our next meeting, unless we have objections, is going to be on June 10th to review the report to the board, and anything else that President Belger or Tom wants us to review at that time. Is there anything else that we need to discuss tonight? Yes, Terry, please.
I just wanted to ask if Amy could, I'm not sure I have individual board members' emails or whether everybody wants to give them out. I have no problem with giving mine out, but like Phil, if I wanted to give you some comments, and we don't want to like send them to everybody, but if I wanted to send them just to you, or should I go through Amy or send them and have her send them out to you or to the board, or what? How's the best way to?
And I think that's a good question for Amy.
You are more than welcome to send them to me if you would like, and then I can make sure they get wherever they need, or I can give a list of email addresses to the entire committee. So it's whatever you would prefer.
Yeah. And I think as long as we're not, I was going to say, I don't think we'd run into any problems as long as we're not making decisions or discussion in depth of running afoul of the public meetings law.
Yeah, Colina reminded me that the rule basically is that we can't have conversations, including serial email conversations, among a quorum of the board, of the committee, without announcing them in advance and holding a public meeting. But I think individual comments, and of course, in my view, a lot of these kinds of comments that we're likely to make ought to be going to Tom. So if Amy's willing to act as the go-between, that would be fine. But I'm perfectly happy to have her send out my email address to the members of the committee as well, if that is something that would be useful. Is there anything else we need to discuss tonight? Well, members, it looks like we get an hour and 5 minutes back to do something else. Thank you so much for attending, and unless there's something else tonight, I don't hear anything. We are adjourned. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Night.
Thank you.